We welcome the Minister of State for Planning and Launch to this high-level consultative meeting. Good morning once again. Very welcome, Minister. Let's have anthems to kickstart the day.
You've given us. We commit the planning process of our nation. We commit all the brains and human resource you've given to our country. And more specifically, we commit the human resource and brains of the National Planning Authority, whom you've given this responsibility for planning for our country. Bless our minister today, and bless everybody in this house. It is your guidance, it is your counsel, it is your understanding we seek today for the cause of humanity. You've given us the brains, but it's your wisdom we look for today, so that the humanity of our country is to the best levels you desire it to be. This we ask in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord, Savior, and brother. Amen.
That was a powerful prayer to start the day. And I know we don't give a hand clap for prayers, but let's give one to Mr. Katumba. Thank you very much. The Minister of State for Planning, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, the Deputy Chairperson, National Planning Authority, Professor Oboya Kinyera, board members of the National Planning Authority, Ndpiii, representatives from ministries, you are all most welcome to this launch. Without further ado, let's have the Executive Director, National Planning Authority, Dr. Joseph Muvawala, to present the statement on NDP3 midterm review. Thank you.
I want to thank you, the MC, Honorable Minister of State for Finance Planning, Honorable Golobi Amos, the Deputy Chair of the National Planning Authority, board members, colleagues from government agencies and ministries, and the committee that leads this midterm review, and staff from the National Planning Authority. You're all welcome. My duty today is very simple, is to make a statement about the MTR. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are launching the process of the midterm review of the third National Development Plan. And this midterm review is very, very important. We are doing this midterm review as a requirement of the comprehensive planning framework, which requires that every half at midterm, we will check progress of what we intended to do. We will look at the assumptions of the plan to see whether they are still working. We will look at the situation as it is. We will look at the challenges and the issues that are pertaining to implementation. And particularly given that this midterm review is coming at a time when we have had a lot of external shocks. One being that we have had COVID that has disrupted the economy, disrupted our targets. We now have the Russian-Ukraine war that is causing more problems on the supply side, and that now we are faced with the increasing prices in the country. We are operating in a situation that is fluid. We are now here to look at our plan at midterm and check whether the assumptions we put forth still hold. I think this is the most important midterm review of all midterm reviews we've ever done. And at this point in time, I call upon all colleagues and agencies to take this matter very seriously. The directives I've received from the board and my minister is that when we do whatever we do, we are going to end up reprioritizing, depending on the results, which we may already see. The macro team will be doing the analysis of the macros, determining the revenues that we are going to be working with, and beyond that, we are going to distribute these numbers and the new assumptions to all programs and MDAs for you to reprioritize actions for the remaining 2 years. I am also aware that we have directives from His Excellency the President on the key things that should happen in the remaining 2 years. Agro-industrialization, industrialization, dealing with the transformation of the lowest people, putting them into the market economy. We have also this morning just received a letter from His Excellency the President regarding agriculture, and we'll be discussing agriculture on the issues that were discussed in May. So this midterm review will take all these reports. We have also been receiving reports from our partners. Any partner who has prepared a report on performance, on issues within the plan, this is the time to receive all these reports. Honorable Minister, just a few days ago, I did receive a report on the assessment of the PIMS process of this country. And now we are being told that we are losing close to 50% of the benefits of the money we put in implementation because of implementation challenges. I am hoping that this midterm review will be able to address these matters, and that as we move forward, we will have a plan that fits in the context of the times. My speech has been prepared, but as you know, I don't always use these speeches. I want to thank those who presented it. So this midterm review will look at a number of themes. One of them is a policy and strategic direction. Is it still relevant? Number two, it will also look at the program design and institutional frameworks. We set ourselves a target, and we said we are going to work in programs. Are we really working in the programs? What are the challenges? What kind of improvements can be made? I want to put a point to the people who are doing this midterm review that the decision to go program is not on test. The decision was made. We are going to continue going programs. We expect this midterm review to give us areas where we improve, but not reverse. For that one, I need to be very clear. We also look at economic management. And our team is going to give us a number of scenarios. I hope that some of the scenarios you're thinking about are not already outdated by some of the decisions that we are seeing coming out of the executive. So we need to take care of all these executives. We're also going to look at partnerships. What is happening with the partnerships? How are we working with these partnerships? We already noticed that the partnership framework at the Prime Minister's office is a challenge. We have not been meeting. How has Ndpiii performed in mobilizing the civil society to assess government performance? I know that colleagues will know that this is where we have been weakest. And I'm hoping that this midterm review will come up with recommendations that will help us. Then we'll look at local economic development. I noticed that a number of people are not linking the parish development model to the local economic development. These are the issues we need to look at. We also are thinking that the key things in the plan will be looked at. The parish development model, how is it working? How has it started? Are we on the right track? Core projects, how are these projects being implemented? At the end of the day, we are hoping that we'll have a plan that fits the context. I thank you. I thank you very much for coming. And MC, I think I have done my part. The statement is going to be distributed to all of you. I hope you will read it. Honourable Minister, I beg to submit.
Like myself, Dr. Joseph Muvawala is an excellent teacher. He really deserves another hand clap. If we have the paper, it is not necessary for him to read it out, but we can read it for ourselves and critique the paper. So thank you very much. I would therefore like to invite Professor Sam Oboya Kinyera, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Planning Authority. Let's welcome him with a hand clap.
Do I need to keep this on? Thank you. The Honourable Minister of State for Finance, Amos Nkolobi, board members here present, the directors from Ndpiii, all senior government officials that have been invited for this function, the media, Executive Director, National Planning Authority, representatives of the Interagency Committee, the consultants supporting the midterm review, all protocol observed. I stand here on behalf of the chair, who is at the moment presenting a paper at State House. So that's why I'm standing here. Otherwise, she would have been with us this morning. My remark goes on as follows. That on behalf of the Executive Board and management of Ndpiii, I want to welcome you to this official launch of the Ndpiii midterm review and Ndpiii end-term evaluation. As you may recall, the Vision 2040 of this country is a transformed Ugandan society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years. And the goal of the Ndpiii is increase household incomes and improve quality of life of Ugandans. Aware that the Ndpiii implementation has been affected by the effects of COVID-19 and other disasters, this review presents an opportunity for redirecting the country by reviewing the plan's assumptions, macroeconomic framework, targets, implementation arrangements of the program-based approach, performance of programs and attendant projects, and financing arrangement. A detailed methodology for the implementation of the MTR has been fully developed, and I therefore call upon all stakeholders to actively support this process as we redirect our plan towards economic recovery and socio-economic transformation, respectively. The authority is committed to the timely and effective delivery of this important activity. We look forward to sharing with you at a later time the outcome of the MTR for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Professor Oboya Kinyera, for your very brief and succinct remarks. He really deserves another hand clap. Honorable Minister, just a minute before I invite you, Mr. Katumba, where are you? Step forward, please. The Honorable Minister must know who is here.
Honorable Minister in the House, we have Honorable Frederick Bueno Chakulaga, the State Minister for Agriculture. He was seated somewhere. He's a representative. Honorable Minister in the House, we have staff from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Honorable Minister, we also have the board members of the National Planning Authority and the members of staff of the authority. Honorable Minister, we also have some members from local government, and we shall be informing you as more continue to come.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. We also have representatives from most of the media houses here. All of you are most welcome. I'd now like to invite the Minister of State for Planning, Honorable Amos Lugolobi, for his remarks.
You're not following the SOPs. Yeah? Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. The Deputy Chairperson, National Planning Authority, the Executive Director, National Planning Authority, the members of the executive members of the Board of National Planning Authority, representatives of the Interagency Committee, the consultants supporting this midterm review, distinguished guests, the media, ladies and gentlemen. I take this opportunity to welcome you all to this very important occasion. of launching the Ndpiii 3 midterm review and Ndpiii 2 end term evaluation. The midterm review, let me go off the script for now, just to put the whole thing into proper context. Way back when the NPA was started, we agreed on what was called a comprehensive national development planning framework. That framework became a policy document because it was adopted by cabinet then. As that framework that we are implementing. You remember before then, we had a document known as the Poverty Eradication Action Plan, the PEP. So the successor of that document was actually this framework, the Comprehensive National Development Planning Framework. That framework had some critical elements in it. And the principal one was the national vision, which is now the National Vision 2040. In that vision, we have outlined the aspirations of the country to become a prosperous country by 2040. But a national vision being a long-term commitment, it can only be implemented through these various midterm frameworks. In fact, before you come to this 5-year midterm framework, we must be talking about the 10-year perspective plan. Somehow along the way, I think the implementers of this framework have dropped that idea. I'm not so sure. The ED was here, he would have told us why we don't have a perspective plan. In a perspective plan, the idea was that we have an outline of those things that we want to achieve, at least in 10 years, which would, because you have 30 years of the vision, then you have 10 years of the perspective plans. In other words, outlines of what you want to see. For example, you may make a commitment that whereas by the vision time, you would have 10,000 megawatts of power, and you would break that one in 10 years and say, divided by 3, you'd be talking about nearly 3,500 megawatts in 10 years. So your perspective plan would state that we shall have 3,500 megawatts. In terms of roads, we shall have so many kilometers tarmacked in 10 years. So this NDP we are talking about would then be split in 2 to deliver the perspective plan, because it's an outline. And the this midterm plan, the NDP, would actually be describing the how to deliver the perspective plan. So in that comprehensive national development planning framework, this was, I think, somewhere lost. But I think it was very critical. The board members are here. I think they may need to look at that because it was clearly approved. We need the perspective plans as we do the midterm. Otherwise, we appear to be operating in darkness. You cannot use a 5-year plan to project what you need to do in 30 years. Somewhere midway, you need an instrument that would use to define your national development plan. I'm saying all this because I happen to be a historical in this process. And there are a few historicals here I see with whom we are working. I used to work with NPA. I see Dizara there. He was a young, you stand up so that people can see you. He was a fairly young man then, but now he has come of age. And the consultant, I've forgotten the name. Yes, he used to work very closely with us. I'm glad that he continues to work. So he knows all the history. I see, I'm forgetting now the names. I see him there. He was very young also. Katungi David. So these are I don't know if there are a few other historicals sitting in between. Now, I think that was Judith. Yeah, those were the few historicals. There's another one there. Who is that? Wansambu. Yes, Wansambu. Those are a few historicals we had. So that is the history of planning in this country. Planning had been dropped. And failure to plan is planning to fail. So we have to plan for our country. Now, a few days ago, I think it was last week, we had a huge symposium here of African youth, 800 of them gathered in Munyonyo under the APRM mechanism. And we are discussing how to grow Africa. This Africa that has remained lagging behind. You are talking about a world population in August that will be 8 billion people, of which 1.6 come from Africa. So Africa is a very big contributor to that population. And the other very interesting thing about Africa is that it has the youngest population in the world. 70% of that population is below the age of 30. Now, and in Africa, Niger appears to have the youngest population in Africa. And second to that, guess who it is? It is Uganda. We have one of the youngest population. Second to Niger, some people call it Niger. And if you don't plan for that population, you are going to end up in a terrible, terrible disaster. And we really need to sit down and say, what do we do with this bulging young population? 70% is not a small, number. It's huge, So we need to really think within our various programs, how do we prepare this population? If we do well, then we shall be talking about the demographic dividend. If we don't, then we shall be talking about a demographic curse. You will see a crisis in this country. Secondly, I want to observe that this African continent is actually the poorest continent in the world. Now, how can we remain like that? We seriously need to sit down and plan for this continent. We are part and parcel of this continent. Whatever we do here should escalate to the continental level, because now we have become more united than ever before. We are talking about a more united African Union under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. One of the critical pillars within our framework is integration. How do we integrate the rest of Africa? We have not been trading amongst ourselves for reasons one cannot understand. We haven't. Now, as we plan, or as we do this midterm review, we are making sure that we are bringing the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, closer to us. So we are going to be planning within that framework. It has commitments. We want to be trading. That's why we have the Africa Free Continental Trade Area. Now, to trade amongst ourselves is key, because then you can be able to easily cross borders, to enter the European Union market is not something that is very easy. It's easier to penetrate the African market because you have something that brings you together into a common market. This is what we should work for. A population of 1.6 billion people, if you made them better, they would give you the purchasing power that you need to grow investment into this continent. And that is the trick the Chinese use. They capitalized on the population that they have, 1.4 billion people. They made them a little better. And that generated a huge aggregate demand in that country. And today, everybody is struggling, fighting to go into China and invest there. Why? Because of the market created by that huge population. So as we plan, we need to take care of that. When you read our previous plan, that perhaps was not overemphasized. But we could understand, because then we don't have the key institutions now that have been adopted as institutions of the African Union. The AUDA, the Africa Union Development Agency, we must work very closely with those. UNECA, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, they are now doing a lot of work. They are institutions of the African Union. The APRM is part of that on various governance issues. So all these, working closely with them, I'm sure we shall build the Africa we want. So we really want to capitalize on this market. And remember that we have the RECs, the regional economic blocks, the East African community, which has been heavily broadened. You know, we now have the Democratic Republic of Congo. And that entire eastern region is for us to take in terms of marketing our goods. You know, I know Ambassador Philip Idro, being a businessman, can educate us about that. It's a huge opportunity for us. So as we plan, we should not forget that we need to integrate all the relevant pieces together, the relevant aspects together to create viable value chains. Previously, our planning had been characterized by a very big weakness of planning for production. And we forget to plan for marketing, as if marketing is not important. We have relegated trade to a certain level I cannot describe. We don't even talk about it at all. In fact, when you look at our numbers, trade is one of the least funded and talked about sector. And yet the most important, can you produce anything without a market? You cannot. So now, in this midterm review, it's important to reflect on such issues. The third issue, while I'm still talking off the script, is the one of financing our budget. We need to rethink the financing architecture of our budget. Of course, our credit rating still remains a B, so we are at the margins of either going under or going up. So we are just there. Now, if we mismanage ourselves in the way we are financing our budgets, we can easily slide downwards. Now, we need to innovatively think about how we are going to finance this budget, at least for the coming 2 years. We are facing huge challenges of low tax to GDP ratio. Now, with tax revenue of 25 trillion shillings in a budget of 48 trillion shillings, it means that a very significant proportion of this budget is debt. Now, when you run down the 25 trillion shillings and you offset interest payments, the amount of money you remain with is very little. now offset wage, there will be no money to invest in the critical sectors of the economy. So as we do this midterm review, we are going to be discussing very extensively the issue of financing the budget, the financing architecture. We shall need to benchmark certain countries to see how they do it, and if it means copying those lessons from them, we shall be doing so. Because we really need to invest heavily so that we are able to raise our GDP. What we desperately need is a GDP growth. Because with the GDP growth, our debt to GDP ratio will be greatly enhanced, and our financial position would be heavily stabilized. The way it is, Honourable Minister, I think you may want to take a seat up here. The way it is today, with a debt, you are most welcome, Minister. With a debt to GDP ratio of 54%, we have already gone beyond the sustainable levels of debt. So the implication here is that we need to deal with the denominator, and we have to do whatever it takes. Some of these things we are going to do even without asking, how much am I going to be paid? If we really want to raise the denominator, and the denominator I'm referring to is the GDP. Because the more you raise the GDP, the more you improve on that ratio of debt to GDP. So we need to do whatever is in our means. And you know that we are gifted as a country, naturally gifted. If you start comparing this country with other countries, even within the region, you'd see that we are a very rich country in terms of natural resources. So we actually need minimum investment. We just need commitment of us, the public servants, of the people, to really go and produce. That if they are given 100 million shillings at the parish level, they make sure that they make good use of that money to produce and will raise our GDP. So with those small remarks, can I now go back to the script? So as you are all aware, the financial year 2022-23 is the third year of implementation of the third National Development Plan. And as provided for in the CNDPF, the midterm review of this plan is now due. That's the commitment we made. At 2.5 years, we do a review to see how well we are doing in the previous 2.5 years. Additionally, the previous plan, you remember we had a plan called Ndpiii, ought to be evaluated at least a year after of its implementation, as completion of most interventions have now fully taken effect. So we need to look at that plan. How much of that have we achieved? Previously, under the PIP, this is what used to happen. After the end of the 5 years, they would just roll it over, you know? So in other words, it had no timelines. It could not end. And you know that causes a lot of weaknesses in the system. It means you can spend and don't achieve, and you fail to achieve the objectives. In the Ndpiii, we want to make sure that we deliver what we have written there. So that's why we do not roll over the plan. And that's why we are now doing an evaluation of Ndpiii 2 to check out of 100 how much were we able to achieve. At the onset of Ndpiii 3 implementation, the world was struck by the COVID-19 pandemic with effects and other disasters. You remember the locusts, which constrained implementation of the Ndpiii 3, thereby distorting and affecting the assumptions and performance trajectories. So our assumptions at the beginning of this plan were affected by those shocks. So whereas the NDP3 anticipated and integrated the COVID-19 risks to the economy, the effects were not fully estimated at that time, because the effects turned out to be bigger than originally expected. Nevertheless, some implementation has been going on and stock-taking made to link resources with the plan. The midterm review of NDP3, therefore, presents an opportunity for redirecting the country through the reprioritization process towards recovery of the economy through a review of the following. We want to review the assumptions of the plan after COVID-19 effects on the economy. We actually want to review the macroeconomic framework. The macroeconomic framework, sets the agenda. It's within that framework that you say we shall invest so much money in terms of public spending, and we shall invest that money in these programs. That's where actually the direction largely comes from. Number 3, we shall be reviewing the targets of the plan. Number 4, implementation arrangements of the program-based approach. We are implementing the program approach, and we have noted certain issues that we need to look at more critically during this process. So we shall be looking at that more critically. Then number 5, the program performance, including attendant projects. How have we performed in terms of those programs and in terms of critical projects that were identified in the NDP? What can we keep? What can we drop? What has worked? What has not worked? Number 6, financing arrangements. I've just talked about that. Number 7, reprioritization of key interventions and actions. Over the past 2.5 years, you may want now to relook at your interventions. Are some working? Are some not working? Are some working beyond expectation so that you can escalate them further and look at the critical actions that are needed? So those are the key issues that we want to be reviewing. So as such, government through the National Planning Authority has commissioned a midterm review of the NDP3 and the end evaluation of the NDP2. The overall objective of the review and evaluation is to determine the extent of progress made at the midpoint of the implementation of the NDP3 and at the full course implementation of NDP2, including the attendant programs and projects. The evaluations will also cover progress on cross-cutting issues, including regional and international commitments that include Africa Agenda 2063, the ESC Agenda 2050, and the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development Goals. So we shall be operating within those critical frameworks, and I'm sure COMESA is there as well. The evaluation will be undertaken with the support of one independent consultant, while the participation of stakeholders will be coordinated through an interagency committee composed of senior level representatives from NPA, Office of the Prime Minister, Ministry of Finance, Office of the President, OBOS, EPRC, PSFU, BOU, Local Development Partners Group, the Academia, Uganda Local Government Association, and the Non-Government Organization Forum. The Executive Director, NPA, will be the overall supervisor of this activity. And those of you who do not know him, I think he may stand up so that we can recognize him. Now, I talked about a consultant who will be working with this team. This is a hybrid approach. So we have the consultants on the one hand and also our technical team And also at the high level, we are also there. This time, we are having all the politicians involved to give us the direction in which we want to move. And today we are beginning with agriculture. That's why you have the Minister of Agriculture here. Please clap for him. You know, we indicated arrival here at 8:30, and he was here at 8:30, so we need to apologize to him that we are not here on time, and we are not ready at that time. Mr. Minister, that's not the way we work. We shall certainly get back to our usual ways as we continue with this exercise. So where is the consultant? So that, yeah, oh, it's the same one. Now, okay, so you may want to mention your name.
John Mary Matovu.
John Mary?
My name, yeah. John Mary Matovu.
Oh, John Mary Matovu. Yes, I think he's a doctor, isn't he?
Yes, yes.
Yes, he's Dr. John Mary Matovu, our own. Now, the evaluation will involve stakeholder consultation from both state and non-state actors, national program working groups, program secretariats, MDAs, development partners, CSOs, and private actors, and local government technical planning committee members, council, citizenry, and the private actor levels. The evaluation will also employ OECD DAC criteria of relevancy, coherency, effectiveness, efficient, impact, and sustainability. I therefore call upon all stakeholders to fully cooperate and participate in this noble activity, which is envisaged to generate evidence-based opinions that will shape the direction of the country, both in short and long term, for attainment of Vision 2040. More importantly, it will help us identify the priorities for the remaining 2 years of the plan, 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025. So this exercise is going to inform our budget strategy, in short, for the next financial year. This exercise is planned to be completed by end of August 2022. Remember, in September, we begin the budget cycle. Well in time to inform the next budgeting cycle as provided for in the Public Finance Management Act of 2015. I also want to introduce Research for Transformation for Development, the consultancy firm undertaking the evaluation. I think I've already introduced them. They will be supported by the interagency committee of the technical officers from various MDAs, as I've indicated. Today, we are beginning the high-level program meetings. The programs will be led by the relevant ministers. So we are starting with the agro-industrialization today. Tomorrow, we are scheduled to have integrated infrastructure, but for some reason beyond our control, we have postponed it. But the fact remains that these high-level meetings will involve the ministers and their technical officers to tell us, out of their priorities, what do they want to retain amidst the challenges that we have as a country. So beyond those high-level meetings, then all these technical meetings of yours will be taking place to generate the final document which we shall take to cabinet. And beyond that, you already know that we have developed a program-based budgeting tool, and your interventions should come from the new or from the reviewed plan. And we shall be critically looking at that at the Ministry of Finance, because we want to make sure that the Ndpiii is implemented to a level of at least 90%. I therefore take this opportunity to launch the midterm review of the third National Development Plan and the end evaluation of the second National Development Plan for God and my country.
We must thank Honorable Amos Lugorovi. Let's first thank him for the first speech with a big round of applause. And then we thank him for the scripted speech with another big round of applause. And then we thank him again for thinking about planning and creating an environment for planning at another level. Another big round of applause. Thank you. The other day, Honorable Amos Lugorovi, I reminded you that I'm related to you. I hope you remember. So, all the wisdom you display as one of people related to you, I also own it. Thank you very much. Honorable retired Major Bwino Fred Chakulaga, MP, you're most welcome. We did welcome you in absentia a little bit earlier, so now we're welcoming you officially. A hand clap for him. Right, at this juncture, we'd like questions from media people. This is your time to ask any question. You could stand up. I don't know if the media people were in the hall when we did the other little exercise with the microphones. Were you here? So if you're ready, you could stand up or sit down, mention your name, the media house, and fire away. Between the three presentations, have we scared off the media?
Mr. MC, here.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Businje Nuruddin. I am a general manager for Merchandise Uganda, as well as I work as the team leader for Smart Youth Network Initiative. Honorable, thank you so much, Minister, for your speech. My appeal to the members here that we are supposed to go off script the way the minister has said. I really appreciate what he has said, going off script and making sure that we really know these things. Sir, you mentioned the stakeholders to inform this consultation, but I have not heard the youth. When you went off paper, you said the youth are supposed to be brought on the table, but you did not put it there. I don't know if the consultant will call us for this meeting. The National Youth Council is there. I lead an organization that has over 10,000 young people in Kampala and outside the Kampala. So we can come in this room and also share our inputs in this planning. I hope that is put into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nuruddin knows how to grab the table, so to speak. Honorable Minister, you also talked about trade, asking in my now capacity as a senior media person. The trade in Uganda, there's not a lot of income that comes into government via income tax, but there's a lot of money that comes in via import taxes, for example. And it is right that you highlight it. So will it have a section on its own every time their representatives have a complaint or two all the time, rather than presenting themselves positively? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Dr. Arthur Beinomugisha, I'm the Executive Director of ACCORD, but I happen to have a degree in mass communication, so I'm a journalist. I take that advantage. Yeah, Honorable Minister, the government is rolling out the parish development model. 1.1 trillion shillings is going down there. And
I think I have not seen, I've read the speech by the executive director and I've listened to your speech. I think it has not been emphasized. I don't know whether you think that agriculture will cater for that, but I think it needs to come out very clearly as a policy direction for this government to bring 39% of our population into the money economy. So I think this midterm review should actually mainstream that if it's going to succeed, because there's a lot of fear that a lot of money is going there, that it may not succeed, that may also be a political just statement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Perhaps, Honorable Minister, you will tackle those three. You could even do it seated down, and otherwise you keep standing up and down.
Thank you so much for those questions. The first one about the youth, I'll put that to Dr. Mvawala. He has worked out.
He's here.
Yes, let me put to him.
Honourable Minister, I would like to affirm that this midterm review is going to be fully consultative and all aspects of society will have to be involved. The youth, the women, the political leadership, private sector, non-government organizations, civil society. We are going to do our best to involve as many people as we can, sir.
Yes, I think his concern is that where I read out the technical team, the youth were not mentioned.
We will make an amendment, sir, and include the youth.
Okay, I think that's what he was looking for. Okay. Now, about the people involved in import trade, that's what you are referring to, that they need to be given space. They have some issues. Dr. Mvawala, again, I think you need to take note of that. Yes. Yes. Now, on the PDM, I just mentioned it in my script. No, I mean, outside of the script. But it's something that is fully mentioned almost everywhere. You know, the PDM, most people tend to overemphasize the 100 million. And that's why you have also fallen in the trap of the 1.1 trillion. But it's well beyond that. Because pillar number 1 is actually talking about agro-industrialization. You know, agriculture, production, processing, and marketing. So that's pillar number 1. There's a lot of money that is involved in there. It is also talking about integrated infrastructure. But it also talks about financial inclusion, which is the 1.1 trillion that we are talking about. So it's a much broader program which cuts across various programs of the Ndpiii. What you are talking about, I think, is found in the regional development pillar. But other pillars also contain various elements or pillars of the PDM. So you should not be worried. It has been well taken care of, and we have arranged a special meeting for it under the regional development program meeting. Thank you very much. I think those are the questions.
Yes, thank you very much. We still have a little bit more time for questions. The program even says we have a Luganda version if you want it. Well, it looks like we don't have any more questions. Thank you very much, Honorable Amos Rugorobi, for your presentation and responses to the questions. Thank you, ED, Dr. Mvawala, for promising to take up all those angles. Thank you very much. We are going to stop for just a little break. and then the consultations will begin. At this point, you have to give me a big hand clap. Oscar Semoyams, okay? Always with NPA. And even though we started a little bit late, we are only 26 minutes out of time. Don't I deserve a huge, huge hand clap? Thank you very much. Yes, it's a short break time.